Welcome back to Mythic Codex Legends Unveiled, the place where mythology, folklore, and legends come alive. I'm your host Eliza, and tonight we'll uncover the stories that have captivated humanity for thousands of years. Turn the page, our journey begins now. Have you ever walked through a forest and suddenly felt like you weren't alone? Not because you heard footsteps, not because you saw something move, but because the entire forest suddenly felt different. The wind stops, the birds become silent, the trees seem taller, and for just a moment, you get a horrible feeling that something is watching you from somewhere between the trees. Now, image believing that feeling wasn't your imagination. Image believing that the forest really was watching you. Because in Slavic folklore, there was a spirit said to rule over the deepest parts of the wilderness, a creature that could become a man, an animal, a tree, or something so enormous that it could stand taller than the forest itself. He was named the Leshy, and tonight, for the final episode of Season 4, we're stepping into his forest. But I'm warning you now, once you enter, you may not find your way back out. The Leshy comes from Slavic folklore, particular traditions of Eastern Slavic peoples. This name is connected to the word for forest, and he was often regarded as the master or guardian of the woodland. He wasn't simply some monster hiding underneath a tree waiting to attack someone. He represented something much bigger. The forest itself, the animals, the trees, the hidden paths, the things humans couldn't control. And that is what makes the Leshy so fascinating. He wasn't necessarily evil. Sometimes he helped people. Sometimes he protected animals. Sometimes he could even guide a lost traveler. But if you disrespected his domain, that could change very quickly, because the Leshy didn't have to kill you to make you suffer. He could simply make sure you never found your way home. The creature that could be anything. This is where the Leshy gets terrifying. There isn't one single appearance. In some stories, he appears as an old man. In others, he may look like a hunter. He can appear covered in leaves, branches, or other signs of the forest. And sometimes, he doesn't look human at all. Folklore describes him taking the form of animals such as bears, wolves, birds, goats, and other creatures. He could even appear as a tree, bush, stump, or something else that belonged naturally in the forest. And there was another terrifying ability. His size could change. He could become enormous or incredibly small. Image looking into the forest and seeing what appears to be an ordinary tree. You walk past it. You keep going. Then you hear something behind you. You turn around, and that tree is gone, because it was never a tree. It was him. So I have a question for you. If you were alone in the woods and suddenly realized one of the trees wasn't actually a tree, would you run? Or would you stand there and try to figure out what you were looking at? Because personally for me, I'm running. I'm not waiting there to find out what it turns into next. No way. I'm leaving. I'm running. I'm out of there. One of the most frightening parts of the Leshy folklore involves getting lost. And not just getting lost because you took the wrong trail. The Leshy can deliberately confuse travelers. You might think you're walking in a straight line, but somehow you keep ending up in the same place, the same tree, the same rock, the same clearing, again and again and again. You start walking faster. You try another direction. But somehow, the forest keeps rearranging itself around you. That's the horror of the Leshy. You don't necessarily know that you're being hunted. You may not ever know that you've encountered him. You just know that you're lost and something is laughing. The laughter in the trees, according to folklore, the Leshy could make strange noises in the forest, whistling, singing, laughing, calling out. And sometimes the sound could seem to come from somewhere nearby, then suddenly from somewhere far away. Image hearing a laughter deep in the woods. You call out, "Hello?" Silence. Then you hear it again, but this time it's behind you. You turn around. Nothing. You keep walking, and then you hear your own name. The Leshy and the animals. The forest wasn't simply the Leshy's home. The animals were considered part of his domain. Some traditions portray him as their protector. That means the hunter entering the forest wasn't necessarily the one in control. The hunter may have believed he was tracking the animals, but the Leshy could be watching the hunter. And if he didn't approve of what was happening, the hunt could go very wrong. The hunter could lose his way. His animals could disappear. His trail could vanish. Or he could find himself wandering deeper and deeper into the wilderness. The forest could become a trap. And this is where the legend becomes much darker. Some stories portray the Leshy as capable of abducting people. Children wandering too far into the forest could become victims. In some versions, the Leshy might carry them away into his domain. And that creates one of the most disturbing questions surrounding the legend. If the forest spirit takes you, where does he take you? Some stories suggest the victim might eventually return, but they may return confused, changed, unable to explain where they've been. And others suggest they may never return at all. The forest simply swallowed them up. No footprints, no explanation, just gone. Now let's take this legend somewhere darker. Image a hunter entering the woods. He sees something moving between the trees. He raises his weapon. The animals disappear. He follows it. Branches tear at his clothes. Roots catch his feet. He keeps going. Suddenly, he falls. His body crashes against the forest floor. His ankle is twisted. His hands are bleeding from branches. And then, when he looks up, there's something standing between the trees. At first, it looks like a man. Then it gets taller and taller. Its head rises above the branches. Its body begins blending into the trees around it. The hunter tries to crawl backward, but the forest floor seems to stretch endlessly behind him. And then he hears it. Laughter. Not human laughter, something deeper, something ancient. And the hunter realizes something horrifying. He wasn't hunting the forest. The forest was hunting him. This is where I think the Leshy becomes more interesting than just another monster, because maybe the point of the legend wasn't simply, there's a monster in the woods. Maybe the warning was, the woods are not yours. The Leshy could represent the danger of believing humans control everything. People enter forests to hunt. They collect wood. They gather berries and mushrooms. They traveled through wildernesses. And folklore gave the wilderness a personality, a guardian, a ruler, a spirit that could punish people who took too much or behaved disrespectfully. So perhaps the Leshy wasn't always the villain. Perhaps, sometimes, we are. And if you were entering the Leshy's forest, there were ways people believed they could protect themselves. Respect the forest. Don't act arrogantly. Don't take more than you need. And most importantly, don't assume you're the most powerful thing inside the woods. Because the moment you believe you are in control, you may already be lost. So here's my last question for you. So now I want to ask you something. You've followed me through witches, spirits, monsters, legends, and creatures that have terrified people for generations. But if you could choose just one, which creature of Mythic Codex Legends Unveiled would you never want to encounter in real life? And more importantly, would you rather face the creature you know is hunting you, or something you can't even see? Because with the Leshy, you might never know which one you're dealing with. So, in one of my recent episodes, there was the phantom flamed rooster. See, I'd rather have that thing come at me than any other legend or story I've encountered so far while doing this podcast. That's the one creature that I would be okay with hunting me down. Because the flames were harmless. But so knowing that, I would probably rather face a creature that I can see it is hunting me than something that I couldn't see that's hunting me. That's what I feel. Just let me know what you guys think in the comments. I really, really want to know what you guys think. I want your input. This is where something strangely beautiful about the Leshy legend. Because beneath all the fear, there's a message. The forest doesn't belong to us. Nature doesn't exist simply for humans to conquer. And sometimes the things we fear are actually reminders of what we have forgotten. Respect, balance, humility. The Leshy represents the wild, parts of the world that doesn't need us. The part that existed before us and will exist after us. Trees will grow, rivers will run, animals will disappear into the darkness, and somewhere deep beneath the branches, the forest will continue to breathe. And that brings us to the end of Season 4 of Mythic Codex Legends Unveiled. We've traveled through some of the darkest legends, strangest creatures, and the most terrifying stories I could find. But I wanted to end this season with something different. Not just a monster, not just a creature, but a legend that makes us look at the world around us differently. Because maybe the scariest thing isn't that something could be hiding in the forest. Maybe the scariest thing is realizing that we were never alone there in the beginning with. So, the next time you walk through a forest, listen. Listen to the wild. Listen to the wind. Listen to the branches. Listen to the silence. And if you suddenly hear laughter coming from somewhere between the trees, don't assume it's another person. Don't assume it's an animal. And whatever you do, don't follow it. Because somewhere in the darkness, the Leshy may already know you're there. This is your host Eliza, and this is Mythic Codex Legends Unveiled. Season 4 is officially over. But remember, every legend has a beginning. Every story has a secret. And somewhere out there, another myth is waiting to be uncovered. Until next season, keep questioning what you think you know. And whatever you do, don't get lost.